Today on Grand Thumb, we're all about, well, resisting the federal government, being able to fight enemies both foreign and domestic. But you know what another important thing is? Defending your life with your concealed carry weapon. Now, obviously, the thing that's going to matter most when it comes to your concealed carry is going to be shot placement. If you don't hit them somewhere that's going to kill them, well, they ain't going to die. But if you're close, that's when it can matter with some very good defensive rounds. So what we have today is a lineup of some of the most popular defensive rounds, such as what, John?
So we got Hornady Critical Duty, we got very basic.
Hornady?
Yeah, Hornady Critical Duty. Some very basic hollow points and even some more out there designs.
I can't wait. The point is, we're going to be testing using ballistics gelatin, using ballistics dummies, and chronographing with some of the most common pistols, how these rounds are going to actually perform. Today on Grand Thumb, what is the best defensive ammo? Now, we of course have to thank the sponsor. Sorry guys, I was a little distracted. I was looking through my Primary Arms H1, our favorite pistol optic. But we have to give a big thank you to Primary Arms for sponsoring this video. A big thank you to them. Go check them out. And of course, email them and say, hey, I love April, which is Banana April, banana flavored candy.
Send a bunch.
Yeah, as much as you could possibly want, maybe, we don't know. And of course, if you're looking to be more American, well, we cannot recommend Henry Repeating Arms enough. If you, whatever you want, they got you. They got a huge catalog. Go check them out, and you're gonna be more American than ever because lever actions are just very American. And if you go to henrythumb.com, very special opportunity there, but we can't talk about it. Now, of course, if you want to get better at shooting, we recommend what, John?
Dry fire with Manus.
There you have it. Mantis is going to turn your weapon into a dry fire machine. Go and check them out. And finally, All Ammunition is sponsored by AAC. Of course, we're using a lot of different varieties, but we want to give them a big thank you. With all that being said, talk is cheap. Ballistic dummies are actually like $2,000 per dummy, so it's actually quite expensive. We're kind of in the red here.
I mean, I was going to round up homeless people.
That's the next option. I guess we should talk to JD Vance about that. Now, not only are we testing these rounds to the utmost, but we have a $400,000 Phantom camera, which is probably why we're in the red also, but it gives us the coolest footage and we can very much so visualize to the entirety of the wound track what that round is going to do in ballistics gelatin, which is not a good approximation of human tissue, but rather is showing you the performance of each round in a controllable medium. Now, before we do that, we're going to be chronoing every single one of those rounds because, quite frankly, companies do weird stuff when it comes to chronoing. Now, we talked about the setup. Let's go ahead, let's take a look at some of the rounds that we're going to be using today. John, I know we have a lot of different rounds here. I guess there's a lot to talk about, so you want to go down the line and show everybody what we're going to be using?
Yeah, so as a good baseline, we have AAC 124 grain. It's almost identical to NATO spec. It's on the hotter side, but just very basic FMJ ball.
This is like the Beretta M9. I shot like an insurgent like 8 times and he doesn't die.
Yeah, he's just mad that you shot him.
I'm talking about Insurgency, the game.
So next up, it's Blazer 115 jacketed hollow point. It's not plus P, it's just the most basic hollow point that everyone has a couple boxes of laying around.
The Walmart special. You can buy this almost everywhere, and we're gonna see how it performs to some of the, like, I guess you'd say proven performers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So next up is another 115 grain hollow point, and it's Hornady Critical Defense. It's also not plus P, but because it's meant for micro 9mm, it doesn't really need to be plus P.
It is interesting. It is a filled cavity in comparison to the hollow points. So each of those rounds is going to be traveling through a t-shirt, which previously in our videos have shown to be a problem with the traditional hollow points. So I'm interested to see how these all perform.
So after that, we have 2 very proven performers, particularly with the officer-involved shootings. 124 grain Spear Gold Dot, very good valve.
That was like the round back in the day.
The longest. And then what predated it was Hydra Shock, but now we have 124 grain plus P HST by Federal.
You remember Black Talons before they...
people would say they would go through a bulletproof vest.
Slips through your armor.
Yeah,
That's not true.
Yeah, again, another proven performer, but technology has advanced in the past forever. From there, my favorite round personally is Hornady Critical Duty 124 plus P. I know that's a new standard among a lot of law enforcement agencies right now.
Yep.
And then from there, then we got your less traditional rounds. Some of them are actually pretty solid. Some are more of a meme, I guess you could say. First one is Lehigh Defense XTP, or Extreme Penetrator. It looks like a Phillips head screwdriver. These are known to just zip like clean through gel blocks. I mean, I'm sure we'll see the same thing today. From there, a actually very impressive round, even though traditional wisdom doesn't really apply to it. The G9 First Responder.
Yep.
External hollow point. It's like the Lehigh, but with different geometry. So it just, fluid dynamics, stuff that I didn't pay attention to in school.
That's fine, John. I went to school and I'm equally retarded.
Yeah. So this was a big craze, and I think like the early 2010s maybe. The G2.
It never went away, dude.
Yeah.
The RIP ammo.
It's really good in Tarkov. I use it a lot in there.
In Tarkov, you put this in Chris Vector. You never lose.
But it's G2 RIP, or radically invasive projectile, and all these little prongs that they call trocars, but to break apart in the body immediately and cause their own wound tracks and stuff. It looks pretty in gel, but it's very, very questionable at best in a real situation. Also, just side note, I would not use that for an actual self-defense situation.
You don't know. Maybe it's gonna crush in that gel, dude.
Just think about how it's gonna look in court is all I'm saying. You know what I mean? So
I guess that's a...
But it looks mean, and that's how people think.
Is it worse than shooting somebody with horny rounds?
No. You're trying to make love, not war, so...
Now, as far as who are we, my name is Michael Jones, former Air Force Special Warfare guy, first as a SEER guy, then as a TAC P. And we got John. John spent 7 years in the Army. What did you do in the Army, John?
I was in the Army.
John was in 275. Holy crap, every time. The point is, between us, we have a good amount of military experience, a lot of shooting experience, and we're happy to educate you. As far as the test procedures, we're gonna be using a Glock 19. The reason we're using a Glock 19 is it sits between a full-size handgun and some of your more compacts. In fact, most people do carry a Glock 19. It's called the professional's gun for a reason. And that's why we'll be using it. It has a 4.02 inch barrel. Now we also have, we wanna give a little bit of love to the M&P. This is the compact version, and it's slightly longer, I believe, on barrel length.
Yeah, 4.25 versus 4.02.
So these are very similar in performance. We simply wanted to show that there are other options beyond the Glock 19. We're huge fans of the M&P. That being said, due to the massive amount of Glock 19s, this was going to be our test gun that we're going to be using. So with all that being said, let's go ahead, let's load this up with the 124 grain FMJ, that first little round, and see how it performs in gel, or doesn't perform.
It's gonna be terrible.
It's gonna be terrible.
So one other thing about the 19 is it has the exact same barrel length as the newer Glock 45, which is a very, very impressive handgun. Also, a lot of law enforcement agencies are switching to the Glock 45. Shout out to Zach and Josh.
Glock 45, which is 9mm.
Yeah, very good handgun, but identical barrel length. And I just wanted to bring that up because the ballistic performance you see from this is going to be identical to a Glock 45, which is their service pistol. So
can't wait to test it out. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to chrono the FMJ right here. So we have our standard round, we have our chronograph. Let's see what the speed of the round is. Okay, 1,170 feet per second, which is just above the speed of sound. This is pretty typical for our 124 grain rounds. Let's go ahead and test it in gel. 124 grain AAC, basically your NATO standard round.
And 3, 2, 1, action.
Just about what you'd expect, just not a whole lot going on there, a little bit of tumbling, but overall we didn't see really good ballistic expansion. With everything being said, I do have to point out that although 124 grain FMJ is not the round you typically want to select, it still did perform pretty well. We saw the combustion as the gel closed around, it did tumble and create good expansion. It's just, that is a temporary cavity and those are good, but your permanent wound cavity just is not as much as we typically see from a more specifically designed self-defense round. And I know everyone is quick to point out the 124 grain 9mm is the military's round. However, many units that actually use their pistols to actually shoot people tend to use better ammo, such as spear or many other hollow points. This is pretty typical. So, okay performance, but not my first choice at all, although very plentiful. Next up, we have Blazer 115 grain hollow points. This is your Walmart special. Let's go ahead and see what our speed is. Okay, we have 1,184.8. There's gonna be obviously some variation between all the different rounds, but that is good performance. Let's go ahead and let's see how it performs on gels. 115 grain Blazer hollow point, Walmart special.
And 3, 2, 1, action.
There we go. Good job, Ranger. So, you know, we were quick to point out that the permanent cavity is not really that much. The temporary cavity definitely looked impressive, and we saw good penetration in the gel block right here. Overall, this doesn't look that great. It looks like it did open despite the t-shirt. I'm not really seeing many problems when it comes to a thin t-shirt. I'm sure as we...
Like a hoodie and a t-shirt.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, we're getting into summer here, which is what we're testing. We'll see how it stacks up to the other rounds, but it's our first hollow point right there. What do you think, John?
Not bad. So I would say for the Hornady critical defense, it's probably going to look almost identical, but it will perform better with someone wearing like thick clothing just because it has that pre-filled core. This wasn't bad, wasn't great.
What do they say in Chernobyl? Not terrible, not great.
Oh, and I wasn't there, so.
No. It was in the TV show. I mean, you weren't there. Yeah, neither was I. John has some really good information on the upcoming, which is the Hornady Critical Defense. So right here, they're both 115 grains. And John, you want to talk about the ogive on them?
So we already mentioned it has the pre-filled core right here, which helps with going through thick clothing, stuff like that. But also if you notice the ogive, which is like the, I guess you could say the shape of the projectile itself, this is a smaller one than like traditional 115 grain hollow point. The reason for that is this is meant for like your micro 9mm handguns that have not that much internal volume inside the handgun. Now this is probably gonna work fine, but it's just a little bit extra insurance with these things. Another one is along with the critical duty round is it has like a shelf on the projectile, so whenever you're rechambering this round over and over, you know, you're going out, come back home, unload your gun, you know, yada, yada, yada. This prevents the round from seating back into the casing. So, I mean, overall, Hornady ammo is a very well thought out round.
Obviously, we like it. We're not sponsored. It's just a good round. So let's go this test out, see how fast it's going. All right, we got Hornady Critical Defense, 115 grain, 1,121. Smoking, it's moving. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's do our last test here. Hornady Critical Defense, 115 grain. Probably not gonna perform much different, but it has a good track record.
In 3, 2, 1, action.
It's a little bit less penetration, but honestly, like you said, John, it does look extremely similar in performance to the Blazer hollow point right there.
I would say it's more consistent across the board, whether they're wearing thick clothing or if you're using it in a micro 9.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Compelling.
Okay,
so we're gonna take a look here at this gel block little post-mortem right here. It performed very well. You could see that we did have some of the petals shear off of the slug itself, which is awesome, but the majority of the weight was retained in the slug, which is most of what we want to see here. It's fairly similar performance. With that being said, this round does perform more consistently, I would say, in terms of clothing. So what we saw from it, pretty good. You can see that both it and the Blazer did open up very similarly, with the only difference being that with the Hornady, the petals are much deeper and longer, and also when they do come off, that's just pretty brutal. But very similar performance, so that's interesting to see. Let's go ahead, let's step it up to the next round. Next up, we have Spear Gold Dot. This is the 124 grain plus P. This is a proven performer, and in fact, you used a very similar round on a deployment, didn't you, John?
Hydroshock, old school Hydroshock.
Nice. So what we're seeing here is good proven performance, and we'll see how it actually looks in gel compared to what we shot and what we will be shooting. 1,173. Now, the thing you also have to consider is that we have some 115 grain rounds that we're going a similar speed. This is 124, not 115. That is cooking for 124. So let's go ahead and shoot it in gel, see how it does. I will say I carried Spear Gold Dot for a long time, and I still occasionally do, along with Federal HSD. So this is a very, I guess you could say, common round. Like within law enforcement, this is used for a very, very long time.
It's a fantastic round, but this day and age, there are slightly better options out there.
There you have it. Everything's incrementals, and that's all we did in this video.
Yeah, okay. Exactly.
Right here, we have 124 grain, Spear Gold Dot plus P. John, would you say this round is racist?
3, 2, 1, action.
That is some wonderful performance. Look at that. That is nasty. Little bits of t-shirt in there too. Look at that hole in the t-shirt. Here is the critical defense. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, look at that wound track.
Woo! I thought you had to dig shit out of.
It's right there. Look.
Yeah, I don't want to cut my fingers.
You know, this feels like the scene from Black Hawk Down when the dude gets, you know.
Oh, that is nasty, dude. Now you might wonder why it's called the Gold Dot, and the answer is right there. Okay, so that opened up beautifully right there. Let's go ahead, let's take a look at the permanent wound cavity and then kind of talk a little bit about it. So first off, our temporary was massive on this guy. I would say this is our first really good performer that we saw in the rounds that we shot. There is a difference between your Blazer 115 grain and your more proven Spear, Well, let's go ahead and let's take a look if you want to get in close on this guy. As you can see with our permanent wound cavity, we have a really good permanent wound cavity. We have bits of the t-shirt, that's that black material in there. And we have all of the retained weight in the slug right here, which is excellent. And it opened up quite wide. The pedals stayed intact. And this is a wonderful performer. I don't believe you're ever going to feel outgunned carrying Spear Gold Dot. So let's go ahead and go to its main competitor, which would be the Federal HST, which is also a very effective round that has killed a lot of people. Next up, we have the Federal HST 124 Plus P. Now, we fired a few Plus P rounds at this point, and we should point out that you might not always see the benefit from Plus P depending on how small your firearm is. So you are gonna see the benefit in like a 19, but you're getting down to your very small weapons and you're gonna get a lot more flash, maybe not as much performance. So it's always good with any round that you're gonna select to use to always chronograph it, make sure that you're getting the speeds that you want to out of it, and compare it pretty logically to other rounds that might be more suited to a subcompact gun, which is to say, I'm probably not gonna run Plus Ps in a small micro.
Yeah, super micro handgun. I'm just gonna stick with critical defense, something like that.
But that being said, let's go ahead and let's see how fast it's going. 1,182, which is very comparable to what we saw from the Spear Gold Dot. Let's go ahead, shoot it through gel. The direct competitor to the Spear Gold Dot would be the Federal HST 124 grain Plus P, fired through a Glock 19. And this is actually the best Glock 19, John, which is what's your generation?
You say 3, but I'd say 4 or 5.
Ready.
And 3, 2, 1, action.
We got a pass through.
Oh, went straight through. That is a great little wind track right there. Once again, Federal HST proven itself to be extremely effective. This is a very, what would you call it, John? What type of round is this?
Oh, I'd say a full-size handgun performer.
You wouldn't say it maybe has a proclivity for certain skin. So if you can come in and take a look at this guy, really beautiful flowering pedaling effect. That's not specifically what you need. However, it is indicative of very good, very consistent performance. In addition to that, it opened up massively. And this is just wonderful. It retained almost all of the slug itself. Now, we did fire 2 rounds. One barely exited and we couldn't find it. And the other one, we put gel block behind it. We were able to catch it. As a quick note for why we have 2 wound tracks in this particular gel. And of course, both me and John are huge fans of Federal HST, and this will always be a recommended round within the Grand Theft channel. We have Hornady Critical Duty. This is 124 grain Plus P. This is John's favorite round. John is cursed with autism, so John will now talk about this round.
So similar to the critical defense, it has that flex lock pre-filled core, which helps it whenever going through barriers such as very thick clothing, stuff like that. It also has a slight shelf towards the top of the round to keep it from seating back into the casing whenever you're rechambering over and over. Officer gets off duty, unloads his gun, over and over. It helps prevent that. It's just a solid all-around performer. I would say it's gonna look rather similar in those gel blocks to the other stuff that we had in 124, but it is a better general purpose round because it does better in barriers. Interestingly enough, I'm pretty sure Hornady designed that specifically to beat the FBI test, and then it turned out to be a good round rather than trying to make a good round and then put it against the test.
Way to go, Horny.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and let's test the speed on this guy. Plus P, 124 grain. 1,178. As you're seeing with all these 124 grain Plus P rounds, we're seeing about the same amount of performance. So let's get some gel down, put a t-shirt in front of it, see how it does. Hornady Critical Duty 124 Plus P. We'll see how it does.
2, 1, action.
That looked energetic. Look at that, right to the very edge of the gel block. How advantageous for us. All right, we have Hornady Critical Defense right here. Now, as you can see, our general kind of size of the projectile and how big it opened up wasn't as large as a Spear or the Federal HST. Now, for some, that might be the end of the story because as you can see, the wound track isn't quite as impressive. That being said, there's more to it. So one thing that we want to look at also is going to be consistent performance. So in terms of clothing and getting through clothing, what you see is that hollow points, traditional hollow points, tend to not open up as readily and get clogged more easily. This has been proven in both our videos and many other videos that are out there. We're not the end all be all. So although not as, intense and as violent as those two other rounds, it still has consistent and very good performance and penetration, just like those rounds. For me, I tend to opt to carry different types of ammunition during different types of seasons. During winter and stuff, I'll carry something like the Critical Duty or the G9. Compared to summer with lighter clothing, I have no problem carrying Spear or HST. So there's always more to the story. Make sure that you're matching the ammunition to where you live. In Florida, man, maybe it's not going to matter as much, but if you're living in Montana, man, you might want to think about carrying a round that has more consistent performance through thick clothing. Next up, we have the Lehigh Extreme Penetrator. I wonder if they're Mormon. If you're Mormon, you'll understand that reference. So it's 115 grains. It's a low recoil load. So there's a lot going on here. Let's see the penetration. Let's see how good it performs in gel. My guess is probably not that well. John, what do you think?
I think it's going to zip through. Major.
All right, let's see what the speed is on this guy. Right, 1,093, so quite a bit slower, being a low recoil round and also lighter. That definitely matches up. Let's go ahead, let's get ready with our gel block. Dang, I didn't catch it. And let's see how that works. All right, we have the Lehigh Phillips head screwdriver right here. Extreme penetrator. People are always like, oh, so how do you know which is which? Like flathead versus Phillips? It's like, well, flathead's flat. So kind of takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, huh? That was extremely low recoil, I will say that much.
Look at that.
That was a lot of penetration. That went through the first gel block and into the second gel block before it stopped. And you know what? That definitely extremely penetrated, just like you, John. All right, this is a slug that has been fired. You could probably actually just load this guy right up and fire it again, because apparently it's fine. So you shoot the guy and then reload the round. But you know what? I really didn't think this round would do well at all. That being said, I'm pretty impressed with the performance. Both being a low recoil round, it was extremely pleasant to fire. And on top of that, the wind track isn't like incredibly impressive, but pretty on par with many of the rounds that we've seen so far. And extremely good penetration. It did not care at all what it was going through. So this one surprised me. Not my first choice. However, not a bad performing round at all, especially given the amount of recoil that it generated for me. This is a round I could recommend to shooters who might struggle with recoil. So not bad at all. Let's continue. Right here, we have the G9 First Responder, a very interesting round and in many ways kind of different from what we've shown so far. I do want to point out that we are big friends with G9. They are Idaho bros, and well, they've supported the channel since like 2017 in terms of showing us product demos and giving us police reports and feedback on how the round has been performing. G9's a little weird in the fact that it doesn't really perform wonderfully in gel. It really does require living tissue. So with that being said, John, you want to go ahead and step in frame here? No, I meant I'm going to shoot you.
Oh, yeah.
But no, so I feel like I'm coping right now, but with all that being said, let's go ahead and let's see its performance. Let's go ahead and let's start with speed. It is a 77 grain round, fairly low recoil. 1,666. An unfortunate number, but go to hell, Satan. Well, I guess you're already there, so fair enough. Oh, got it. So let's go ahead. Let's see how it performs. So we have a very light round, traveling extremely fast. Now, a quick note on how this works. John did some quick math on his phone, and the round is traveling at about, well over 1,000 miles per hour. So you are mostly water, especially your brain, but most of you is water, so it uses those fluids in order to push everything apart, and it is quite violent in various animals that I've hunted with it. It does very well. Obviously, I like G9. I carry this a lot. G9, 77 grain First Responder. John, you ever been to those churches where like a giant paper mache devil comes out of the ground, then the pastor sends him back to hell with his guitar?
I've never been to one that cool.
You're missing out. Okay.
In 3, 2, 1, action.
Into the other block again.
Oh my gosh. Wonderful, wonderful. I do love G9.
Not a bad wind track.
Not bad at all. So right here we have the G9. The round is also fine. Just go ahead and reload that little sucker. So shoot somebody, pull it out of their dead body, and you're good to go. Just kidding, don't do that.
Pull it out of their what, Mike?
Dead body, because they're dead. I don't know. So we have extremely good penetration, did not care about clothing. G9 is one of those rounds that does very well with clothing due to the fact that it has something that can get plugged. Similar to the Lehigh round with the fact that it had really good penetration, similarly low recoil. The difference being that this is more kind of traditionally shaped like an FMJ, so might feed better. I'm not gonna stick to that, just gonna say that in terms of bullet shape, this could be problematic for certain handguns. Now, I will say, I think it performed quite well. It's put it under Spear and HST and maybe about on par or a little bit better than Critical Duty. John likes Critical Duty more. He says nah to that, but my channel. So we've done a lot of proven performers. Let's do a meme round, which is Rip. Right here we have G2 Rip. You ever seen Yellowstone, John?
No, not really.
Send Rip. All right, here you go. Talk about it.
So yeah, it's kind of a meme round. On the box it says the last round you'll ever need. This is big, like 10, 15 years ago, something like that. It's got these little, what's called trocars, and it's just a machined piece of copper, and these are meant to break off as soon as they go in the body. It looks really pretty on Ballistics gel, but I would say it's questionable at best.
Who's been shot with these rounds?
I mean, I'm sure certain individuals in the city have.
Yeah. You think, I was about to say, the people who carry them like shoot themselves in the leg.
Yeah.
Perform. Have you ever seen a guy where he shoots himself in the leg and he's like, had an ND, shot myself in the leg, round performed great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they're probably pretty nasty on the human body, but that being said, I'll just say, think about how this would look in court.
Penetration also matters. If this isn't getting good penetration, then I have some questions. All right, let's go. Let's see how this guy is speed-wise. That was very light recoil. 1,236. Now the Rip is a 92 grain projectile, traveling at 1,236. A little bit low. The recoil did feel that way. I'm really interested to see how it's gonna perform in Ballistic Gelatin. So we're gonna get some new stuff up and see how it does. Tarkov's favorite 9mm round. You know, this does look like an AI generated 9mm bullet. You'd be like, Chat GPT, make me a crazy 9mm.
The deadliest 9mm bullet in the world.
It would make this. Okay.
And 3, 2, 1, action.
Oh, okay. So I need to point something out like right now. So this looks really cool. So a ballistic jet block, about 3.5 inches to 3 inches of gel is like equivalent to like less than an inch of human skin. So we have about 6 inches of penetration. That's like 6 inches right there, right, John? Let's see.
That's like 15 inches.
Yeah, it's like 15. So the point is that these petals are coming off almost immediately, and what really kills when it comes to a round is going to be penetration. You need to make sure that you're hitting the vital structures of the body. Usually the stuff that's very vital isn't very close to the surface unless you're shooting the head, in which case it doesn't matter that much. Now you do have part of the projectile that goes deep, but this just seems very gimmicky to me. But it looks cool as hell.
That's all that matters.
Okay, so we have some of the petals as well as the main projectile right here. So again, I'm gonna be the last person to say this is not an effective round. That's obviously not true. You hit somebody in a vital area, you're gonna kill them. But today's video is mostly about optimization. What is the most optimal round for self-defense? And because of the fact that the petals split apart so quickly, and again, like we talked about before, that's gonna be fairly quick in the human tissue, it's probably not your best option. I would go with a proven round such as Federal, Spear, Critical Duty, G9, I think is gonna give you better results. I think the most interesting thing that we've done so far today is the fact that many of the rounds performed very similarly. There wasn't a massive amount of variation between the rounds. They all performed well to an extent, and obviously Spear and Federal performed extremely well, but there's not as much of a separation between the ballistic performance of these rounds from what you used to see to now. Ballistic performance has gotten very good, even in cheap rounds like Blazer. Now, with all those things being said, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna bring out a ballistic dummy, we're gonna shoot it with some of the best performers, just so you can see what it would look like going through bone and tissue and that type of stuff, because, well, it looks cool, and we can't shoot homeless people, so this is about as close as we can get until rules change, right? Yeah. Yep, you know, everyone's like, hey, I wanna die by firing squad. Why not die by firing squad on Grand Thumb? Just a thought. So next guy on death row, if you're watching this, just see what happens. You never know.
We'll bring the Phantom camera.
We'll bring the Phantom. Just, you know, JD Vance, he's already killed the Pope. What does it matter? First up, we have G9 firing into the ballistic dummy right here. If you're not familiar with the ballistic dummy, this is an approximation of a human, way too expensive. We have bone, we have blood, we have tissues, we have everything. And it's gonna be a good time. Sorry. I'm speaking to somebody about it.
And 3, 2, 1, action.
Look at that G9, look at that flowering as it enters. It immediately cracked the rib right there. As you can see, you want to get a good close-up of that. And then it looks like, oh, that is cool. So we have a support that's in here coming through the piping right there that's filled. So I actually cracked that. It would have obviously exited out through the spine, that it hit that little support right there, but it still crushed through it and completely cracked it. Wonderful performance in the G9. That's what we want to see. Next up, we have, let's see here, John's favorite.
Best there is.
Hordity 124 grain plus P. Very common law enforcement round. Let's see how she performs.
And 3, 2, 1, action.
Yucky.
Yucky.
I don't know about you, John, but I would just be okay.
Yeah, walk it off.
Yeah, built different.
Yeah, just built different.
Okay, so we have excellent performance. Now, the flowering and the pedaling was not as much as we saw from the G9, but like we talked about it before, consistent performance through clothing. G9 does it too. Different strokes for different folks. Cracked through the rib, went straight through, and because there wasn't the support arm there, we did have it exit. Now, it still crushed through all the bones, so we have really good performance because obviously if you're shooting something that's living, well, you're probably gonna hit the bone structure if you're shooting for center mass. So you do want the performance of those rounds to be able to push through that. So excellent performance from Critical Duty. Let's go ahead and let's try out Federal HST. Can we shoot on the right side of the body? So when you're ready?
Yes, sir. And 3, 2, 1, action.
Ooh. Oh my gosh, look at this. Okay, so first off, wonderful flowering and pedaling, larger than the G9. The other, of course, it's a traditional hollow point if you want to come in there and take a close look. Okay, and even better, traveled through the lungs here, traveled through the heart, deflected down as it came down through the lungs, and we can see the slug right there, fully intact after just crushing through everything. Wonderful performance, just like we want to see. Next one we'll be trying is going to be G2 Rip, which I just don't know how it's going to perform, really. I'll be respect on my ranch. G2 Rip, and we'll see how it does.
And 3, 2, 1, action.
All right, here's our G2. Looks like the pedals, can't quite see them. Okay, so we did have it exit out through the lung right there, the little small piece. Oh, and there's one of the shards. It's kind of deep in there. So it performed like it did in gel, which makes sense because we're shooting in gel again. Hey man, you shoot them in CNS or the head, they're gonna die, but select a better round. Well, that brings us to the end of our test so far. We've tested a lot of different ammunition types, and there's a lot of takeaways from this. I would say the biggest takeaway is that really what it comes down to is training. If you can't make the hits, if you can't hit the vital parts of the human body, well, your rounds aren't going to really matter at all. But if we are a good shooter, if we're putting the rounds where they need to go, this is where really kind of gaming the system and choosing the best rounds possible is really going to come into play. All of us should be trained shooters. We should also be dry firing. We should be familiar with our weapons. So choosing the best rounds possible is definitely in your best interest. I would say of the rounds that we tested, depending on, you know, the environment that you are, whether people are wearing thick clothing or not thick clothing, I would say both Spear, Federal, and of course G9 and Hornady Critical Duty all perform extremely well, are all proven performers, but I was also very surprised by Lehigh with their XP round. It performed pretty well, actually. G2 is a bit of a meme as far as their rip round. That being said, if you hit somebody where they need to be hit, so long as it can penetrate adequately, you're still gonna kill somebody. My point is train, select good ammo, and I think you're gonna be fine. John?
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is if you're on like a tight budget and all you got is the good, you know, Walmart special Blazer 9mm, it's not as pretty, not as violent, but if you can get the rounds where they need to go, like you're gonna be fine. So training is what matters at the end of the day.
Absolutely, guys. We hope you guys enjoyed this video quite a bit. We know we did. I'm always kind of surprised at the results that we get. I kind of knew that Spear and Federal are going to perform so well, but I'm always impressed by Hornady Critical Duty, as well as apparently Lehigh. I might actually start recommending that round to certain people who have problems with recoil control because it is a very soft shooting round. So guys, if you have any recommendations on us testing different types of ammo, we are all ears. We can do a whole video on meme ammo types. We are more than happy to do so. Go and get in the comments, tell us what you like best, and of course, as always, stay cool, stay trained. Final dad advice for you guys is gonna be, you know what? Drink some water. I know you're dehydrated right now. You might tell your girl to drink water, but you know what? I bet you're not peeing, you know, what is it, that light lemonade color? Remember they had like, so clear. They had the, it's like, in basic, did they have like the
charts?
Yeah, they have the charts on what your color should be. It's like a light lemonade.
And no one ever adhered to it.
Well, you just, I don't know. I like kidney stones.
So this
Again.
this next one, so oh my god, hold on. I f***ed it up.
That's a B-roll right there.
All right, still rolling?
Still rolling.
All right, cool.